Welcome to my podcast, You Are More. I'm your host, Amy. And as always, I'm super excited to be here with you. This week, it's going to be short, fast, and it's going to be punchy. What do I mean by punchy? I am going to just give you a few keys to moving the needle forward in your life. This past week, I had the opportunity to go listen to some of my favorites, John Maxwell. I'm always a John Maxwell person. I love that guy. I think he's written some of the most fantastic books. I think he's written about 90 books all on leadership. And so leadership is one of those things that's an ever evolving, ever growing, never reaching the end of that one. So anyway, I love him. But I had the opportunity to listen to two other people. And one of them was Lisa Bluter, who was the former coach for the Iowa women's basketball. And I am not a massive athlete. I don't follow sports that heavily. But obviously the whole world has turned their attention towards Caitlin Clark and Lisa Bluter and that story. And it's become fun to watch that kind of stuff. So, I became an Iowa basketball fan watching Caitlin Clark over the last few years and just found so much, like, I loved it. I found myself like, I don't even hardly turn the TV on, guys, but I found myself like, when's she playing again? We better make sure we're home for that. We better make sure we see that. Hey, let's watch that. Like, I love that Caitlin Clark. I love that she's empowering women. She's the face of, in my opinion, she's from the outsider's position. I think she's like the face of women's basketball. She's the face of even more than women's basketball, though. She's the face of maybe women's athletics and maybe just the rise of what I see going on with women across the country in every different industry and every different aspect. So anyway, I got to listen to Lisa Bluter, and I also got to listen to Jordan Montgomery, who's got he's got Montgomery Companies, who rose to the top of Northwestern Mutual at a really young age. And he tells a story. But I just want to tell you, listening to those three people that have achieved much, those three people that are giants in their own way, right? And I'm like, so what's the common denominator? And I'm always looking for the common denominator. What makes people successful? What makes them stand out? What makes them excellent? What makes them above average? And I think that every human being on this planet wants to be way above average. You don't set out on this earth. You're not created to not be like, you desire to be great. You desire to accomplish much. You desire to be something special, right? So I sat there looking at those. Like, there's always I think that your daily habits become your routine, become your actions, become your thoughts, become your whole entire life is wrapped up in your daily activities, right? And so I listened for keys. I'm always listening for keys between Jordan Montgomery, John C. Maxwell, and Lisa Bluter. Like, where is the key? Where is the commonality? And there were many, but the one that probably stood out to me the most, because it's something that I work on a lot, is that Lisa Bluter told her story. And I kind of felt like we were sitting in a really private room, and she was sharing something that she had not shared with anybody, including her husband, she said. And there were 600 people there. And yet it felt so intimate. And she opened up her playbook, and they said, what has it been that's been your biggest strategy to, your career, your winning? And you know what she did? She got out a kind of an older like binder that Bob Bowlesby had given her that meant a lot to her. And she pulled out kind of a tattered piece of paper. And she said, I never go on the court to coach a basketball game without going through these affirmations. And I read them twice. And so she started to go through those affirmations, that she was well prepared, that she thought she was able to slow down and think well. She could perceive, plays ahead of time. She was the best coach in the moment. She was well qualified, well prepared to be there. And I just loved it, because I do that kind of stuff every single day also. And she said that she basically went down through all of her affirmations about who she was, how she was going to perform that night, and how they were going to do things. And then to kind of the icing on the cake, she always read it twice before she would go out there. But after the end of each one, she would read the scripture. And it's 2 Chronicles 32:8. And I'm going to read it out of the King James Version. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And I just loved that, because I was like, wow. First of all, she set the course of what she was going to do when she got out there. She already had it all framed up. She read those declarations, and they were like a page long. She read them twice, and she read the scripture twice before she ever got on the court to play. Now I take you to Jordan Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery, hit huge successes, had an issue and ended up losing his job at Northwestern Mutual. And so a young career shot to the top, made a mistake and ended up losing his opportunity, right? And he talks about how he was in the pit of despair and how his dad came to see him and how his dad was his strength and his prayer warrior and kind of got him through. But he looked at his dad one day and he said, "Dad, you're going to leave here in a little bit. And as soon as you shut that door, all my problems are going to flood in on me. And I'm going to be it's just going to be awful. And then tomorrow I'm going to wake up and it's going to be Monday. And the weight of everything that I've got going on is just going to hit me hard. And I don't know what to do." And his dad said to him, "Hey, Jordan, we're going to do this. We're going to build a war room around you." And so literally he and his dad, and he goes, I thought it was kind of, at the time I was like, that's kind of dumb. But he and his dad walked through and they picked out promises out of the Bible, and they literally stuck sticky notes everywhere. Every promise. Hey, every time he'd say, "I'm not able to do something," I'm well able to go and possess the land. Everything, he'd have a negative thought, he'd look and see positive. And so he has literally in his entire apartment, everywhere he turned, his kitchen, his mirrors, his door had scriptures on it that were promises of who he was and what God would do for him. And so he talked about how he just started to have to internalize. He would say those things over and over and over. The negative thought would hit, the feeling would hit, and then he'd repeat the scripture. And he said, literally, I did that. And I thought to myself, at first I thought, this is kind of, what's the point? He goes, it wasn't very much longer though. And all of a sudden I started to see my negative thought patterns were shifting and my automatic responses were the hope, the promises that my best days were ahead of me, that I was well able, that I could go and possess the land, that this was all working for me. And he said, I just started to they became like living epistles on the tablet of my heart. Like they literally became life to me. And he goes, and not very long after that, big doors of opportunity started to swing open for him. And so I just think it's interesting, right? And then you look at John Maxwell. And John Maxwell is always talking about, you really have to see yourself, and you have to see, like, a leader really is someone who just sees things faster than anybody else sees them. Maybe they see them coming down the road, 10 miles faster than anybody else sees them. And they also just see them from a different perspective, right? Literally, when he talked about that, he talked about the power of the vision and to think on this, but that every day he started his day out with gratitude, and he would just write down his gratitude, what he was grateful for, and that he always had to come from a position of gratitude. And so guys, I'm a student of success. I'm a student of high achievers. I love to study their habits. I love to study their disciplines. I love to study their mindsets, but it all comes down to this: how you think. As a man thinketh, so he is. How you speak. Decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you. Your words will follow, your life follows your words. And then when you have gratitude and you can be thankful, this is what I find. Most people in life that are grateful, they just keep having more and more things to be grateful for. So when you get down to gratitude and you can just start to thank God for everything in your life, whether you feel like it or not, when you can get down to just writing it out, I'm grateful for this, and I'm thankful for the breath of my body, for the family I have, for the roof over my head, for the job that I have. Even if you might not like the spouse you have, if you might not like the house you have, maybe you don't even like, I just want to rhyme and say like the mouse you have, but if you don't like things that you have, right? But if you can start to say, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, and you can flip that script, you can flip that narrative of less than and start to go, I'm thankful, I'm thankful, I'm thankful. It literally is a magnet that draws more and more goodness your way, more and more things to be grateful for. It's like the whole entire world beckons to your gratitude and says, oh, they're thankful. I'm going to give them more. It's not any different when your kids, let's look at think about it. Your kids or someone that you kind of lead, when they come to you and say, man, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mom, Dad, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for making this happen for me. What do you want to do? You just want to go give them more opportunity. You want to go help them more. You want to go do more for them because you had that. And then you see those that you're like, you can't do enough for them. They're like kind of taker mentalities. And you or your kids act like takers, and they're not appreciative guess what you want to do? You want to withhold. The world is just like that. It's always serving up to you exactly what you're sending out, right? So if you're serving out bitterness, you're serving out pessimism, you're serving out lack, it's just sending that ball right back to you. If you're serving out gratitude, man, I woke up today. I got an awesome day ahead of me. Thank God. You're serving out that. It's going to send more and more things to be excited about and be grateful for. But how you show up, rehearsing your victories, and literally affirming who you are. Your affirmations matter, because here's the thing, guys. You've probably heard this about like the neuroplasticity of your mind. Like literally you build grooves in your brain of how you think. So if you have a negative thought pattern that just keeps hitting you over and over and over and over, you've likely have built a groove right in your brain. And that groove allows it to just stay on the train track. And you ruminate on it, and you think on it, and you ruminate on it, and you think on it. But if you can stop it and switch the narrative and stop it and speak the opposite of it, stop it and speak the positive of it, you can change everything about your life just by changing the way you speak to yourself about yourself. Every time that negative thought comes up, you flip it and say the positive. And here's the truth, that if you have the ability to literally, your brain has this plasticity about it, to shift the train track, so to speak, to switch them out, the landscape of your life looks so different because the outcome and the output is so different. So when Lisa Bluter came out there, she didn't win every game. She had massive losses. She had times where she blew it, she failed, and maybe she didn't show up as the best leader. Maybe she didn't show up as the best coach. Maybe her team didn't play well. She had down times, I'm sure. But literally every day, every time she stood out there, she'd rehearse her victories and declare who she was, how she was going to handle it. She'd show up as her best self. She'd be the best coach at the best time, at the best moment. She'd know exactly what players to put out there. She just affirmed all that stuff. Guys, if that's what the elites are doing, shouldn't we be doing it? I tell my team all the time, I'm always rehearsing my victories. If I go to a listing appointment, I'm always rehearsing my victories. All the way over there, I'm rehearsing my victories. And the day that I stop doing that is probably a day that's problematic, because the day I stop doing that is the day I'm not a little bit anxious to go to an appointment. I'm not a little bit nervous. And I've been doing it for 30 years. It gives me that edge. Like, okay, I'm going to show up as my best version, but I'm going to rehearse my victories. I'm going to discuss. I'm going to reaffirm to myself, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. I'm well able. We priced this well. We sold this well. We had happy, satisfied clients. Like, I'm going to rehearse my victories. So if you want to move the needle forward in your life, let's do this. Start out daily. Open up a journal and just be grateful. Write 5 things you're down. Write, just take a notebook, 5 things you're grateful for. And then that's in the morning. And then in the evening, 5 things you're grateful for that happened during the day. You might have days where you're like, what did happen that was good? But you know what? You'll get to a point where I had coffee with a friend. Oh, I saw my neighbor out and got to talk to them. Oh, it was sunny out. The sky was beautiful. Oh, I got a phone call from someone I hadn't talked to for a long time, and it was great to catch up with them. When you start to be grateful for all those little things, life just gets better and better and better. Gratitude magnifies goodness, and it draws more and more to you. That gratitude, it's a power, it's a source, it's an energy, it's a force field that just keeps drawing more to you and more to you and more to you to be grateful for. Your affirmations, the only voice you really believe is your own voice. So when you're affirming who you are, you're well able, you're this, you're that, you're getting deep on the inside of you. And guess what? Confidence is key, because what you put out there, your expectation is always going to satisfy itself. You expect good, you'll get good. You expect resistance, you expect negative, that's what you're going to draw to your life. So what you say about yourself matters so much in this world. You have to have that positive self-talk. And then, just as Jordan did, find that promise. Hold to those promises. Create a war room around you, whether it be in your bathroom in the morning or in your car. Put those scriptures out there. Put those notes out there that are all confidence builders to you. You're well able. God has you. That which is meant for your evil, God's turning for your good to save much people alive. You're blessed. He teaches your hands to prosper. He causes you to increase. You're blessed in this city. You're blessed in this land. You're blessed coming in and you're blessed going out. Rehearse those things, those promises. So build that war room around you, because what you look on, what you gaze upon, you eventually become. What your eye is constantly seeing before you, you'll eventually become. And there are some times in life when you got to get into that war room spot where you're contending for things and things are fighting you and you're experiencing resistance. Never the more important time than to build a war room around you when you're in the battle. Keep your eyes focused, keep your self-talk great, and stay in gratitude. I hope this podcast has helped you. If it has, I hope you'll share it, send it on to somebody. I know these principles are simple. They're very simple, but they're profoundly impactful if you'll put them into use. So, as always, know this: you're on this earth for more. You are more. If you like this podcast, please give it a like, share. I'd love the opportunity to connect with you, DM me, connect with me on any of my socials. I'd love to hear from you. But as always, you are more.